please welcome Norm MacDonald. Norm.
Let me say a couple of words about Norm, for God's sakes.
His whole head is a giant pumpkin. That's how the joke starts.
He was Norm, but back then there wasn't a lot of people doing stand-up like Norm. Like there wasn't this sort of angle of sort of this absurdity to it. This sort of.
It's like a giant pumpkin, and then his friend goes, "What happened?" He's like, "I found his genie in the lamp, and he gave me 3 wishes."
Norm was a legitimate genius.
Yeah.
Like a genius of life.
First wish, I wished for like $100 million, and I got it.
One of the greats, and one of the last ones that would speak his mind.
And then for my second wish, I wished for like a beautiful lady, and I got her.
You have a Norm story?
Could talk about Norm all day.
The book is entitled, God Himself Told Me That O.J. is Guilty.
The third wish, that's where I really blew it. The guy goes, "What happened?" He goes, "I wish for a giant pumpkin head."
He understands, play the dumb guy.
I found out about this Norm fella the other day, and by God does he have a big fat head. The first thing I thought when I saw the guy was, look at the big fat head on this guy. After a few hours of research, I found out that he also did stand-up comedy. It was then that I discovered that he had long since died. I was struck by the realization that death is both inevitable and rapidly approaching, head on, faster than we may know. It is unwavering. Death, it does not waver, and one day I too shall fall before death, as hay would fall before a farmer, swinging his scythe. And this realization, it sent me into a frenzy, one that you may call feverish, ravenous even. I personally wouldn't call it that, but you might. In this state of frenzy, I was compelled to tell this tale of a great life, cut tragically short. The story of a man who was as funny as he was wise, as bold as one can be, and as brilliant as he was brilliant. This is the story of the funniest man to ever walk God's green earth, one of the wisest minds of our previous generation, and the greatest comedian to ever live and die. Norm MacDonald.
Let me ask you quickly, we haven't talked to you in so long, I want to ask you about your family.
My great family. I love them all.
How's your, we used to talk in the old days, you and I used to spin some yarns about Uncle Hector. How's Uncle Hector?
Uncle Hector. Uncle Hector, he actually rode the rails during the Depression.
Oh.
You know, he was a hobo.
Hobo.
As you might call him. I don't like that term. And the railroad cops were tough, boy. They were tougher. Tougher than the real cops, you know. They had a law of their own, the railroad cops. But there was not a railroad cop tougher than Kitchener-Leslie. Oh, boy. He was well known. He was well known for beating hobos to death. The railroad bums would all hop off before they got to Kitchener to avoid being beaten to death by Kitchener-Leslie.
Yeah.
He's the funniest guy around. I think you need to be kind of crazy to be really funny.
He is very funny. I love him too, and he has a gambling problem, you know.
Anyways, my Uncle Hector, a good man, you know, and he walked into a mine one day. He said, I want a job. And by golly, he got the job. After a week of working hard, he said to the shift manager, he said, where would I find a lady here in town? Well, they said to Uncle Hector, they says, we have sex with animals here.
This goofy Canadian accent, really telling these long, weird bits.
By God, says Uncle Hector, I'm not going to do that. I'm a normal fella. Uncle Hector continued working in the mine. He worked hard, and he worked long, and he worked for a low wage. 6 months passed, and Uncle Hector couldn't take it any longer, he told me. Right. He said, by God, I just had to, I'm just a man, I'm weak, you know. I'm not a saint, you know, and I was born in sin, I suppose, and I couldn't resist. I just needed it. So he said he walked by a pasture, and there was a pig.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
That's terrible.
Yeah, it's terrible.
He's fearless as a comedian.
Norm had that gear of not caring or wanting, like he would walk rooms.
So Uncle Hector said, well, he said, I walked up and I began having sex with a pig. And he said, all of a sudden, he saw all the miners like around him, you know, looking at him. They go, Uncle Hector, what the hell are you doing over there? And Uncle Hector's like indignant. He's like, what? Well, you're the guys that told me that you have sex with animals. They're like, Uncle Hector, you damn fool. That's Kitchener Leslie's girlfriend.
On October 17th, 1959, Norm was born at a young age in what is often referred to as the Quebec City of Canada. According to friends and family, this is the first time that Norm felt truly alive. At some point he moved to Ottawa, but that was likely the decision of his parents due to the fact that he was, at the time, a child. He went to school, as most kids do, and dropped out after graduating at the age of 14, 4 years before the average student.
Play the dumb guy. And so I meet celebrities, and I know as soon as I shake their hand, I know, hey, there's a dumb guy. You know, because I'm a dumb guy myself, and I got that, you know how gay guys have the gaydar? I'm like that with dumb people.
At 16, he went to university for something involving numbers, and probably letters too. He didn't graduate. At some point, he went to Vancouver, a city best known for its mountains and homeless population.
You used to live in Vancouver?
Yes, I love Vancouver.
When did you live here?
Oh, gosh, when I was a boy, it was like 1979 or something, 1980, when I was a young boy.
He didn't stay long, going back to Ottawa, where he started doing comedy at the middle age of 26. His first shows were at Yuck Yuck's Comedy Club in Ottawa, a place that just so happens to be pretty close to where I live now. If you're watching this video, please send an email to howard@yuckyucks.com saying, please book Chris P. On the topic of this Howard fella, he's actually a pretty important person in Norm's career. He's the owner of Yuck Yucks Ottawa, and he's the guy who convinced Norm not to give up on comedy. See, after a few early shows, Norm was convinced that comedy just wasn't for him, and he was ready to give it up altogether. But Howard stepped in and he said, whoa, easy there, fella. You got something good.
So Howard ran after him into the street. He said, you didn't bomb at all. And in fact, I want you back here every single amateur night until you are ready to do regular nights.
6 months later, Norm went on to do the Just for Laughs comedy special. Now, if you're from Canada, or if you're not from Canada, you might know the Just for Laughs comedy special is a pretty big deal. According to numerous sources, this is also the year that Norm first recovered from stomach cancer. At the age of 29, Norm made his television debut, which is French for something, on the Pat Sajak Show. I don't know who Pat Sajak is. The next year, he went on Star Search.
I finally quit smoking, you know. So I feel pretty good about that. I smoked ever since I was a kid, so it's kind of tough for me, you know. I remember once I was 8 years old, little kid, behind my garage, sneaking a cigarette back there, and my dad caught me. He hauled me in. I thought I was in for the strapping of my life, you know. What he did is he pulled out a big cigar. Must have been half the size of my arm, this giant cigar. Stuck it in my mouth, lit it up, made me smoke it all the way through, right to the end. That's when I started smoking cigars real heavy.
The cool thing about Star Search is that it lets you see the stars of tomorrow today. That way, you don't have to wait. Norm talked popsicles and dogs and smoking, and he walked away with a very impressive 3 out of 4, quarters of 1 star. Despite this small loss to the Bushman, Norm continued his career and went on Letterman later that year. For all the young people here, Letterman was a fellow who had a talk show that started in 1982 and ended in 2015, and now he has a beard that I have mixed feelings about. In 1992, Norm worked as a writer for the one and only season of The Dennis Miller Show. Take a listen to this joke from Dennis Miller, from The Dennis Miller Show, and see if you can guess who wrote it.
The case for UFOs, they instill a sense of wonder in an otherwise jaded populace. The case against, they don't exist.
After the end of The Dennis Miller Show with Dennis Miller, Norm went on to work on The Roseanne Show with Roseanne Barr. After a year of working on The Roseanne Show, Norm left to join SNL in 1993, back when it was good.
And finally, back again, Burt Reynolds in a commanding lead with $14.
Hey, check out the podium. Look at this.
Mr. Reynolds has apparently changed his name to Turd Ferguson.
Yeah, that's right. Turd Ferguson. It's a funny name.
Great.
He spent a year doing sketches and impressions, and in his second year at SNL, he was given his signature role as the anchor for Weekend Update.
Sleepy truckers are responsible for 1,000 deaths a year. In second place, O.J. Simpson at 2 deaths a year.
To this day, this is still what Norm is best known for. Norm did Weekend Update for 5 years until 1998, when Don Ohlmeyer, friend of O.J. Simpson and alleged idiot, realized that Norm was not funny. Norm would go on to appear on the David Letterman Show the very same day he got fired from Saturday Night Live.
Fired me.
No, they didn't fire you.
No, I'm serious. I talked to a guy that said I'm fired.
Fired from your television job?
From on the weekend, I do the news segment.
Yeah, the Weekend Update.
Yeah, and I do the jokes.
Sometimes, many times, the best part of the show.
Yeah. But it's all a matter of opinion. That's your opinion.
That's my opinion, yeah.
But then the guys that can fire me, that's not their opinion.
Who fired you, first of all? Let's get some names here. Let's get this on the record.
This guy, Don Ohlmeyer, who turns out to be the president.
Yeah, now I know Don Ohlmeyer, and just between you and me, he's an idiot.
Oh.
January 7th, 1998, he did the Letterman Show. That is the day that he got fired from Weekend Update.
Right.
And he wouldn't say anything negative. Letterman did. Many, many times to him.
Between you and me, he's an idiot.
Oh.
In his face. But he first of all, he was fired. He still showed up and did this appearance. If you got fired off your main event, I doubt you would want to
promote it
and be out in public.
Right.
And that's all they talked about. He would not say, Letterman was going, what kind of idiot would fire you? No, he's a very nice man. He was a nice man. He just didn't like he would not besmirch the guy that made
class act.
The most.
And then, so he goes, oh yeah, I'm firing you there from the show. And then I said, oh, that's not good. And then I said, why is that now? And he goes, oh, you're not funny.
Yeah.
And then I said, oh Lord, that's even worse news, He goes, no, I don't got nothing to fall back on. No. He's a good man.
He just fired you. What do you mean he's a good? What is wrong with you? You quisling? Stop that.
It was a big sin that Norm got fired from Saturday Night Live. Ohlmeyer was friends with O.J. Simpson, and Norm feels he got fired because he was making too many O.J. jokes.
And finally, in honor of the 50th anniversary of their first publication, Random House will be releasing special commemorative issues of many Dr. Seuss classics. The first to hit the bookshelves will be Green Eggs and Ham and O.J. is Guilty.
2 years later, Norm was brought back to host an episode of SNL in which he dropped the coldest line of SNL history in his opening monologue.
I don't know if you remember this, but I used to actually be on this show. So you see, they fired me because they said that I wasn't funny. But now, this is the weird part, right? It's only a year and a half later, and now they asked me to host the show. I go, how did I go in a year and a half from being not funny enough to be even allowed in the building to being so funny that I'm now hosting the show? It was inexplicable to me, because a year and a half, let's face it, is not enough time for a dude to learn how to be funny. Then it occurred to me, I haven't gotten funnier. The show has gotten really bad.
Norm truly did not give a fuck, which is one of the many reasons why so many people love him to this day. After leaving SNL, Norm took some time off to drift around aimlessly as dust would drift in the wind, hopping from podcast to radio show to talk show, going back and forth from Letterman to Howard Stern to Tom Green. It was during this time that Norm wrote and starred in his first movie, Dirty Work. I watched this movie a couple years ago, and all that I can remember about it is that it was terrible. Actually, I just remembered a second thing about the movie. It was not good. This movie co-starred Chris Farley, and it was actually the last movie Chris Farley appeared in before he died in 1997. Listen now as Norm recounts a beautiful tale about the late, great Chris Farley.
He said, would you like to see my impression of a salad? And he poured salad dressing all over his head and started shoving baby tomatoes up his ass.
Wow. And did you think this guy is the greatest, or did you think, what the fuck am I
I thought
doing
it was
with
the funniest thing I ever saw.
Rest in peace, Chris Farley. It was also during this time period that Norm made an appearance on Family Guy as the voice of death.
Come on, man. Which one is Peter Griffin?
This is Peter Griffin.
Hey, that's a good one.
This role was later stolen from him by famous misogynist Adam Carolla. In the year 2000, I was born, but more importantly, Norm made his best TV performance ever on the smash dumpster fire, The View.
Hi, what's up, man?
Okay, Norm, you're Canadian.
Yes, I am.
So what do you think of this whole presidential mess?
It'd be good to get the... See, I think we should get the homicide out of the White House and get like a fresh start, because we don't want any more murderers.
I think we should just go on to the next question.
Oh.
Who are the murderers? Yeah.
Oh, Clinton, he murdered a guy.
Yeah, you know, we're not allowed to, you're not allowed to put out no accusations without
That's a little
Charlie.
too
That's
far.
the way it does
let's
work.
just go on to the next question.
Yeah.
This is not my week. What can I tell you?
Oh, it's not mine either, and I'm being very nice, okay? Be a good boy. Now, Norm.
Do you never hear that?
No. Listen,
No,
we don't need
I
to
don't
talk
want to get
about
into this, and I don't want to hear it, and this is not the place to make those accusations, and you're supposed to be funny. Let's get on to the next question. So get with it.
There you go.
This is a live show.
Why? Norm, but you have been properly chastised by Barbara, so I'm now going to ask the next question.
I thought it was a matter of record.
Shut up. Let's talk football.
All right, manslaughter.
Let's talk football.
Norm, did you ever hear the word?
The phone is ringing.
I certainly hope that's somebody calling to tell you to go home.
Oh, no.
Dude, you got a phone ringing.
Oh.
Answer the phone.
Hello? Oh, yeah. Oh, no. The thing is this. You know Matt Strauss?
Yeah, the producer.
The producer. He told me it would be funny. He said, like, why don't you carry a cell phone on and then let it ring and then pretend like there's a guy on it.
Is there anybody on it?
No, it's a thing. Pretend.
You know what, Norm? You're a dead man. Norm.
What?
Okay, listen, Norm, listen. Not only have you annoyed us, but I've read that you have actually annoyed one of your idols. Who is that?
Oh, the great Bill Cosby.
Yeah, what'd you do?
Oh, my God, I love that guy. He's my hero, you know, just like you, maybe Bill Clinton would be your hero. Now, Bill Cosby is a great man, first of all. There has never been any accusations toward Bill Cosby. We're all fans of Bill Cosby, right, Berman?
I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I think this clip really hammers home the point that Norm simply did not care. If he thought something was funny and would get a laugh, he would do it, regardless of whether or not it was greenlit by the producers. If he thought it was funny, it was going in the show. That same year, he appeared on the celebrity version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin, which is kind of like the regular version of Who Wants to Be a Millionaire with Regis Philbin, except instead of keeping the money, it goes towards homeless, starving, selfish children. Sounds like a ripoff to me. It was here that Norm displayed his staggering intellect, navigating through questions like a navigator aboard a ship navigates a ship.
I'm thinking that maybe O Calcutta, because it takes place in India and it's sort of a dark subject, would maybe have something to do with Beckett. Say O Calcutta, fine ransom.
No. Got it from...
He managed to secure $500,000 for Paul Newman's hole-in-the-wall charity camp. If it weren't for the meddling Regis Philbin, he would have won the $1 million prize.
Absolutely amazing. Let's look at it for $1 million. Can you believe it? $1 million.
Yeah.
Gonna be yours.
Me?
For the kids.
Oh, for the kids. Here's the problem. Let's say I lose all that money and it gets back to Paul Newman. I'll say Greenbrier.
Please, unless you're sure.
Okay, fine, forget it.
It could be. What are you going to say?
Just give me the $500,000.
Do you want to walk?
What?
Do you? I have to find out if you want to walk away.
Well, no, I was going to answer a question, but you told me.
Tell me what you want to do.
I think Pinehurst is too obvious, so I guess I will say what's the matter? Greenbrier. What are you making that face for?
I'm scared to death.
Okay, I'll just give it $500,000.
All right. What do you think?
I have no idea. I said my guess.
Did you say Greenbrier?
Yeah.
You would have won $1 million, but no. 500,000. Come on, be happy. You were great, Norm. You were just terrific. Yep. You were fabulous. That's it for the second edition of Celebrity Millionaire. From New York, everybody. Good night.
This is a 7-second break to ask you to please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Going forward, there will be no more interruptions.
See, the show is for charity, but Norm probably wishes he could take home all the money himself, because at this time, he was a dirty, filthy gambler. In all fairness to Norm, it wasn't just during this time that he was a dirty, filthy gambler. In fact, Norm was a dirty, filthy gambler for most of his life.
What brought you down, gambling?
Well, some have said it's been the ruin of me, Larry.
The ruin?
But I don't.
By his own account, Norm went completely broke 3 times. One of those times ended in him throwing $60,000 off of a bridge into the water.
I did a stupid thing one time.
Okay, he's ready to talk.
This was my big statement. I threw over at Atlantic City on the boardwalk. I threw $60,000 into the ocean.
What? No way.
Yeah, to quit.
When interviewing the fish who found the $60,000, he had this to say. Glub, 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 glub. In 2006, Norm finally got his big break, starring as Frank the Beaver in commercials for Bell Communication.
You know, HDTV without ExpressView, why, that's like a medical drama without a hot doctor. Oh.
Hi, Frank.
This completely overshadowed the release of Ridiculous, his first comedy album, with appearances by Will Ferrell, Artie Lang, and world-renowned country singer Tex Hooper. From here, Norm went on to produce a whole bunch of specials. Whether or not they were actually all that special is up for you to decide. During this time, he also went on everybody's radio show and podcast and talk show, and he had a few of his own. This is really the height of his production, putting out hours and hours, and believe it or not, even more hours of clips onto the internet. If you're a comedy fan or a comedian yourself, I can't recommend anybody more than Norm MacDonald. Every good comedian that I know, if you ask them who their influences are and who their favorite comedians of all time, most of them, if not all of them, will name Norm MacDonald. In 2016, Norm released my favorite book ever. That's not even a joke. My favorite book ever is Norm MacDonald's memoir.
The book is entitled, Of Course O.J. Did It. I mean, come on.
And in 2021, he died.
Breaking news here at 5. We have learned this afternoon that the comedian Norm MacDonald has died.
Norm MacDonald passed away just last week.
You're kidding me.
No! We just found out that Norm MacDonald passed away. What did he pass from?
It was cancer.
Has he been
had
sick?
Cancer?
9 years.
He's had 9 years of cancer?
A moth goes into a podiatrist's office.
A moth goes into a podiatrist's office.
You are correct.
If you believe in the joke, the audience doesn't have to necessarily.
You want to know why it shakes you?
Why?
Because you understand that one day those will be the words.
Right.
And all it is they just change the tenses. Instead of Norm MacDonald is an American comedian, it's Norm MacDonald was. The podiatrist's office says, "What's the problem?" And the moth says, "What's the problem? Where do I begin, man?" He goes, "I go to work for Gregory Olinovich, and all day long I work." Like, everybody's got cancer. I don't give a fuck about your cancer. You know what I mean? I don't give a... go tell your pastor that, or your family. I don't want to hear your fucking story. The podiatrist says, "Oh, yeah?" And the moth goes, "Yes." And he goes, at night, I sometimes wake up and I turn to some old lady in my bed that's on my arm. A lady that I once loved, Doc.
He was so fearless. He didn't give a fuck who he pissed off.
I don't know where to turn to. My youngest, Alexandria, she fell in the cold of last year. You've been thinking about your mortality a lot lately, or?
Well, yeah. I mean, you turn 70, and it's you can't run from it.
Fuck! I was hoping you could. My other boy, Gregorio. I no longer love him. As much as it pains me to say, when I look in his eyes, all I see is the same cowardice that I catch when I take a glimpse of my own face in the mirror.
We lost Norm MacDonald this week, which was just, I had no idea that he was even sick.
If only the cowardice was stronger, then perhaps I could bring myself to reach over to that cocked and loaded gun that lays on the bedside behind me. Well, the writer Nabokov said that he saw a picture one time, and it was a picture of before he was born. And it was a picture of his mother with his brother and sister that were older than him, but he had not been born yet. And he said when he saw that picture, there was no terror in him, even though he was looking at a picture where he didn't exist.
But he didn't know anything, so...
Right, he didn't, but looking at that picture didn't terrify him that he didn't exist. And so the doctor says, "Moth, man, you're troubled. But you should be seeing a psychiatrist. Why on earth did you come here?" And then the moth said, "Because the light was on." Nowadays, my doctor tells me, they can put you to sleep, and you go to sleep. And 2 weeks later, you don't wake up. But you don't wake up at all. But 2 weeks later, your heart stops. But you can go to sleep for 2 weeks and not have to endure howling anguish and pain or anything like that.
No cancer, nothing.
It's all gone.
Have you ever bought somebody a birthday present for their birthday, and you had to try real hard not to tell them what it was? That's what Norm did for 9 years. The only difference here is that instead of your friend's birthday, it was September 17th, Whitney Houston's birthday. And instead of a present, it was Norm dying of cancer. It is widely considered unlikely that any involvement from Whitney Houston took place. Norm talked of death, openly, often. He spoke of the fear of not knowing what's next, of fear that was lessened by faith but not quite gone, a shadow that followed him constantly. Thoughts of morality weighed on his brain, and nobody knew that he knew he was dying. He spoke of the sin it must be to think always of death while the blessing of life is still present, the love that he had for his friends and his family, the joy that he found in the details of living. And nobody knew he was dying. He spoke of his friend who had cancer and how he would hope not to tell those around him if he were to learn that his death was approaching, and nobody knew he was dying. Maybe he'd still be here today, concocting his jokes and provoking the crowds of tomorrow if only one person knew he was sick, if only one person knew he was dying. His doctor.
The only thing an old man can tell a young man is that it goes fast, real fast. And if you're not careful, it's too late. Of course, the young man will never understand this truth. I think a lot of people feel sorry for you if you were on SNL and emerged from the show anything less than a superstar. They assume you must be bitter. But it is impossible for me to be bitter. I've been lucky. If I had to sum up my whole life, I guess those are the words I would choose, all right. I've been lucky. And as for my gambling, it is true, I lost it all a few times. But that's because I always took the long shot and I never came in. But I still have some time before I cross that river. And if you're at the table and you're rolling them bones, and there's no money in playing it safe, you have to take all your chips and put them on double six and watch as every eye goes to you and then to those red dice doing their wild dance in freezing time before finding the cruel green felt. I've been lucky.